Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now.
The chat on the Plasma?
Yeah, this is just great.
Yeah, this is very meta right now.
Yeah, because I'm
Because Justin TV... sorry, Pixie, I didn't mean to bap you in the nose. Hopefully it won't bleed. Then Ustream, and then the live chat, and the Justin TV is capturing the full screen Ustream. It's like an enigma wrapped inside a puzzle, wrapped inside a riddle.
It just all flows in.
Do you want to, while I'm finishing these?
Yeah, so what was we were talking about the software that you were using to...
Oh, this stuff.
Yeah, for that stuff?
I had, well, basically it's funny, I got this MacBook last night, 15-inch with a backlight LED. I asked my chat room a few weeks ago, I said I need to get a MacBook for Gnome Decks for reasons I'll explain in a second. I said, which should I get? Should I get the 17-inch or should I get the new 15-inch? And everyone was like, get the 15-inch, get the 15-inch because of the LED backlight. Not only will the brightness last longer, it is generally brighter and it saves battery life. Allegedly, you can get anywhere between maybe a half hour to an extra battery life out of your battery with an LED backlight. The thing that I was really concerned about is the lack of resolution. So I'm going to find this laptop was sponsored by Legit, Lijit.com. So they came in for Gnome Decks because we're going to be doing the stream through this. The reason why I got the MacBook over, say, using a PC, any PC from a sponsor or not, is because there are two pieces of freeware that are only available on the Mac that allow me to do what I'm doing here. So in this live window that's being passed through Ustream, it's first being fed through a free app for the Mac called CamTwist. And CamTwist is a program that will allow you to do live video effects. It's got other things available to it as well, including the ability to parse RSS. So I can pull in live headlines. I can scroll them. I have them static. I can change, thanks to Bear in our chat room, that's his handle, he made it so that when we change the topic in the chat room, it will pull it or push it into RSS. CamTwist will pick up the RSS feed and change this within 30 seconds. Nice. So it'll change the topic at the time that the topic was set, and then so that's CamTwist. This is just an animated GIF, a CamTwist. This is just text overlay. It's CamTwist, and CamTwist also has alpha blending transparency. So I can go in with if I do this. Well, I guess I've reset it. I'd show you. You can do a live Chroma Key. So I can choose a transparent color so that it doesn't pick it up and it picks up everything else. So it allows me to do very dynamic video effects. The text itself is colloquy, and that's an IRC chat for the Mac. I mean, it's not amazing, it's not perfect, but right now it definitely gets the job done. And I like the fact that it's got a theme, that it has just plain text, but then it changes the color of the handles. It just makes it more rich and dynamic more than anything else, I think. That's why I've always oop, Pixie, it's not for you. Get her own iPhone and she just goes batty. She thinks everything that rings is for her. So anyway, so these apps all put together, they only work on OS X. I can't find it. I even registered Webcam Max for Windows, and it sucks. Every app I've seen on Windows that tries to be the equivalent comes off as like a white trash cousin of the original app or something that would work better. That's not always the case, but in terms of like video production, it could cost me hundreds if not thousands of dollars to get equivalent software on the PC. It's like, well, at that cost, I might as well buy my own hardware and use freeware. So freeware is what prompted me to get this specific MacBook, and we're going to largely be using freeware to do what we're doing now, as well as at the Gnome Decks conference. And I'm going to be finding another sponsor for the front of the room to get the 17-inch MacBook.
Yes. Yeah, I'm loving the 17-inch MacBook. I went and converted over. You and I were talking about it back when the Windows Vista experience came on. That's actually still the hottest video I have on YouTube.
It's hot. I mean,
it's unbelievable.
I don't know how. I don't know if it's what the AP just picked it up like last week. They used that video that I did on YouTube, that the one you responded to, as the basis pretty much for the article. So it resonates with a lot of people because this is an issue where people have to decide: do I get Vista? Do I go with XP? And while I kind of got raked across the coals from a lot of Windows enthusiasts, which I've been in the past, and I to a certain degree I am. I mean, there's certain things that Windows does do well. But I got raked across the coals because they were telling me, well, it's like Windows XP was when it first launched. I'm like, not exactly. There's a lot of fundamental differences, and even PC manufacturers are coming out and saying this. While Microsoft's had a good year, specifically because of Vista and the things that they've been doing, PC manufacturers haven't necessarily seen much of a bump because people are still on the fence going, why do I need to upgrade to this? Or, more to the point, a lot of people are seeing OS 10 as a completely viable alternative. When you use OS 10 in conjunction with something like Parallels, or
Fusion is what I've been
VMware
using.
Fusion's even more stable because they've been around forever. In fact, VMware is the only way I was able to get Windows XP to get my hardware to work. I had to use a VMware virtual machine and connect the USB through it to use my scanner in Windows Vista and who the hell, even the advanced user is not even going to go that far. They're just going to so anyway, it's a long, complicated story, but it's always fun to tell.
The next one I want to put up on YouTube, I think, is my experience installing Vista on my MacBook Pro in VMware Fusion. So I put the 64-bit version of Vista on my MacBook, and it runs like a dream.
Really?
Now,
because that's what I got to do with this.
The recommendation is that you do XP in the virtualization because that they actually have, and I'm betting this is going to change quickly, but they have the hardware acceleration. So in theory, you should be able to play the latest, greatest PC games on the MacBook Pro in a virtualized session. And now that they have Unity, which basically allows you to just pop open a single woman or women. Whoa,
a single woman!
Hey.
I love VMware! They give me single women. Right.
No, pop open a single window and put in, basically drag an icon to your Mac desktop and click and get created environments, so it's going to be pretty interesting.
I haven't had a chance to really play around with VMware to this point. I know they've got the RC, or release candidate, is currently out, but that's what I was going to put on here. Now, they're recommending XP specifically just for game playing?
Well, because you can take advantage of the 3D hardware acceleration. And
why wouldn't they handle that in Vista yet? Oh, they just don't have the hooks in Vista.
They just don't have the hooks in Vista yet, and there's issues in general with.
Yeah, I would do if I installed anything. I don't know if I'd install the 64-bit version of XP on here, or if I'd go with a 32-bit version at this point. But just because 32-bit is just there's a lot more compatibility, and that's the reason why I'd run Windows on anything. It's just for compatibility. It's sad, but Microsoft has completely marginalized their own desktop space, and they've done it, I think, at the cost of the consumers. And I've told them this. I mean, Microsoft does great things, and then they do things that are just largely questionable. And if I don't say anything about it, then I feel my integrity's in question. Because then I feel people look to me for honest opinions. They know I have sponsorship, but they also know that I'm going to give them the direct scoop. And I give them the direct scoop. If you look at my blog, I just like you would look at the review I just gave to Maxton, which is the web browser that I use, and I was just like nitpicking every single thing. But the only reason why I did that is because I care. It's something that I use, and it's something that needs to be fixed. It's not because I hate something. It's because I love it. And that's the big difference between people who just pander to either sponsors, which, it's important to support your sponsors, but not at the cost of your integrity. And it's a big difference. When I send that list to the Maxton guys, they both loved it. They're like, thank you. Now we've got a good direction on what we can start initiating for fixes. And every day I'm on IM going, you got it yet? You done? Let me see what you got. Let me play with it. Let me get it. I want this to work because this is what I live in. And in fact, I would one of the reasons why I'd use VMware Fusion or Parallels on the Mac is specifically because Maxton is an overlay for Internet Explorer. I can't find an equivalent browser anywhere else. It's a power user's browser, and it's getting. In fact, they've got in the new version of Maxton, there's a plugin that's really cool, and there's probably a Firefox plugin, but it's got a micro formats plugin that'll tell you when you're on a page with micro formats, and then pull in like either the H cards or
Nice.
the tags, and it is cool. And I was like, that actually works. I was like, damn, that's cool. So they've got a lot of features they built in that most users in Firefox would have to go out and upgrade. Here, let me turn off the speakers.
I think the microformats session at Web 2.0 was during your and Scoble's Yap.
Was it?
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, because I was actually at that because I was asked if I would come out to that session and talk a little bit because of the stuff. Pretty sure that was going on when your session was going on because I was like, well, I should go in there. Yeah, it's packed and you can't even get in.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if the full room was necessarily warranted. I think they largely came on Scoble's name. I mean, not to take anything away from Thomas or myself, I think Thomas has definitely got more skills than I do. Certainly as a photographer, if not as someone who understands this landscape. In fact, when I came out with the Vista rant, Thomas blogged and said, "Dude, Chris, do it. Just jump. Just go." But that session, actually, I wish would have gone a little different than it did. I don't know if I was able to impart everything that I wanted to share and where I think a lot of this is going, because a lot of what people unfortunately do and think is they jump on the latest thing without thinking, why am I jumping on the latest thing? What's the value to me or my network? As soon as Ustream came out, I was like, I looked at it, I was like, it's interesting. But then I started putting pieces together. I'm like, this is going to give me a gateway to production so that I can do all the video casts that I've always wanted to do and not have to worry about all these elements. It just happens. Mm-hmm. So it was a magical piece that fit a workflow. And that's the way people don't typically think of these new social networks, is they just think of it as a new toy, and typically with new toys you play with them for a little bit and then they end up collecting dust on a shelf. This is not something that collects dust on a shelf. If you do not see the true value instantly, or if you don't understand how it fits into your workflow, a new social network or a new website is just, it's nothing. The value is less than nothing. I mean, because it's a commodity at this point.
All right, I'm going to shift gears a little bit here on you. I've got some questions that we've been asked to ask, and then we're first question that I have for you is, what are the large software development trends that you're seeing now?
Large software development trends. Everything's going to the web. I mean, if I were to say anything, it would largely be that having a laptop is no longer a question. Having this equipment, whether it's a Mac or a PC or it's something that's running another operating system like Linux, this is almost as common today as the desktop computer was, during the first revolution, when people were starting to buy really truly starting to buy home computers, long after Scooter Computer and Mr. Chips. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Scooter Computer and Mr. Chips. They got the something at your fingertip. Anyway, help me? All right. Anyway, the problem is that you have to, developers creating software for people to use, or companies to use, have to typically develop for one platform, and that, of course, kind of leaves other platforms in the dust. And for a while there, Windows was pretty much leading the pack. And the whole argument between choosing Windows as an operating system versus, let's say, Mac, what everybody would say is, well, there's more software for Windows. And that was absolutely 10,000 million % true. It was a Google true. I mean, one with 100 zeros following it true. But then there was this fundamental shift. As the web started to evolve, and the idea of software started to evolve, suddenly you start seeing a lot more creative people going and gravitating towards what Apple created in OS X, and OS X has had 4 revisions or so since the launch of XP to Microsoft's one release that was questionable at best. That would be Windows Vista. A lot of developers have started looking beyond the world of Windows and realizing they can get to a broader audience, not just through an alternative platform to Windows, but in the web, which is an alternative platform to everything. The ubiquitous factor of the web as a platform is you can't deny it. And even Microsoft knows this. Microsoft knows this, Apple knows this, and the people in the Linux community, I'm sure, if they don't already know it, they'll know it soon enough. The idea of an operating system, the idea of it, within the next 10 years, I'd say, I'll give it 10 years, it's going to change. And of course, every year it evolves, but it's going to become less important what operating system I use, so long as I can get to the web. And you can get to the web on an operating system that'll fit on a floppy disk, on a megabyte. I mean, all you need is that web browser, that web experience, and you've got everything. There's a website that gives me the ability to edit photos, and it looks, if you showed it an average user like my mom, you showed her, she wouldn't know the difference between it in a web browser or on the desktop. And that's the way it's moving. So the operating system's role changes in terms of supporting the hardware that you plug into it, or supporting the services that you want to use within it. But that web browser, that gateway to the internet, is everything. It makes the idea of leaping from one operating system to another negligible. You don't even need to think about it anymore. Forget anything that's going to be a challenge, like I can't use my software on this operating system. If you can access the web and your software is on the web, your calendar, your contacts, your email, your everything that you put on the web, you're portable. So it doesn't matter what computer you use. You can get to that. You can get to your identity anywhere. It's a strong development, and it's got me very more energized about doing what I do than I was years ago when I was really into Windows and desktop software, like way more, because the possibilities are endless. Hope you're not counting on short answers, because
No. We definitely want to get
The full
full effect.
Yeah.
Second one here I have is: do you think there is an increased scrutiny of the release to production process due to auditing requirements in software?
well, if you're speaking to a larger point of release early, release often, is that what you're kind of getting to there?
Yeah, I think what they're trying to understand from their perspective is, what are the things that are hampering? Basically, I should.
What's hampering software development right now?
To some extent, what's hampering, but I think the evolution of the process due to things like, specific requirements, like the SOX requirements or things like that are taking industries and making the software industry specifically, but different segments of it, and taking those requirements in part of the audit process into effect for software development.
Well, I think for the longest time, there's different types of software development. There's certainly enterprise class software that needs to be not just stable, but effective, scalable. And then there's consumer grade stuff, which is what you see largely on the web. And a lot of the stuff is geared towards the consumers. Everybody's a consumer, no matter where you're at. And the life cycles for each one of them are completely different. There are needs that are different for each one. What's interruptive in the process is the fact that the tools are easier to use. There are more people developing things, so suddenly the speed at which you have to get to market has to increase by a factor of 10. It's the reason why as soon as Justin TV launched, Ustream launched, and then not long after that, then you heard from Kite TV, and then Blog TV, and then Mogulus, and all the other live services, because once one person comes out, it doesn't matter how good your stuff is, you just got to get it out there. Release early, release often. I think the biggest impediment in the software development process are the program managers and the management infrastructure that doesn't have a clue what's going on. They're not geeks. They're not people who understand the landscape, and they interrupt the process. And I'm saying there's a validity in not understanding everything about the development process, but I've heard a lot of frustrations from developers saying, I wish this guy would just get off my back because he has no idea what he's doing. I don't know how he got into his management position. He's screwing everything up. And that's the problem, is this management piece that is ultimately, and it's the middle management idea. It's marginalized. What's the use for it? I mean, if the ultimate goal is to drive adoption, or if the ultimate goal is to get enough people using it that you reach a critical mass, then you've got to do everything in your power to speed the time that you start developing something to the time you release something. Then there's another paradigm that's thrown into the mix, both with enterprise class software, all the way down. And I guess I would use that term enterprise class as just like that. You don't get any higher than that. That's just like that's as high as you go. Top tier. So from that point down, suddenly you're seeing these projects have a groundswell of support and become enterprise class. So like 6 Apart, movable type. They've developed enterprise class, software for corporations or big businesses to deploy blogs. And of course, they've teamed up with places like NewsGator, which of course has just acquired everything that's possible on the desktop for news aggregation, FeedDemon, NetNewsWire, the leading desktop news aggregators. But they started out with a client that was put inside of Microsoft Outlook that was for any Outlook user. Yes, you could argue that it was specifically geared towards people in an Exchange environment, but a lot more people than just that used Outlook. And they've evolved that service, again, from this groundswell, the idea around RSS and syndication that didn't start from up here. Doc Searle speaks about this all the time, and I'm sure he's not the only one, but saying how software development changes because it swells from down below and then moves up this way rather than the way it used to be, coming down from on high, saying we have all the control, we have all the power. And in this lump, you've got I think the biggest component that's fueling this change in the way we process and the way the development process works is the idea of open source. So it's not just developing a proprietary system, which works well on paper, like we have 84 patents. I think that really destroys the fabric of the web, if not the space-time continuum. But I'm not going to go into that right now because I'm not qualified to talk about it, at least today.
You have to read that book on your bookshelf.
Ponzi picked up. She only picked up this book for me because it had pictures. I'm like, ooh.
Oh, I love that book. Brief History of Time. got one called "Who Killed Schrodinger's Cat."
Mm.
It talks about Schrodinger and his endeavor into the electron, but that's for another show. I've got 2 more from them, and
the infamous them.
3 more. Yeah. Well, they're not sure if they want to be.
Are they the people that fly around my house in black helicopters?
No. That's another group of people we're working with. What do you know about the software build process?
I know it happens, and I know it needs to happen a lot more frequently. I reach a frustration point more these days than I used to. I mean, it used to be a fact of life that if you got a piece of software, that was it. I remember buying Space Quest 5 way back when it was on 5 1/4 inch floppy disks, and I'd always hit a certain part of the game and it would just crash. And you couldn't do anything. You're like, I mean, the internet wasn't around. I mean, dial-ups, and BBSs were barely around at that point. It's evolved to the point now where I expect all my software vendors, whether they're web-based, and I showed you some of the new things that some people have been doing, or whether they're desktop-based, and I was just talking about my favorite browser, Maxthon. It's not a plug, it's freeware. Or even take the example Firefox. People want a stable core, and they want updates, not just security updates. They want it to do enhancements, so they don't have to add all the plugins to make it work the way they want it to work and the way they need it to work. That's what kills Firefox. It's not its core. At its core, if you don't add anything into it, for the most part, it's okay. As soon as you start adding plugins that clobber other plugins to make it work, then at that point you go, why am I doing this? Or why isn't this feature baked into the browser? I mean, some people want a lot of power inside their browser, and the browser is pretty much the operating system. It gives you a gateway to anything and everything. So, as far as that, the process goes, I'm expecting a lot more to happen a lot more often. Rather than the way it used to be. Unfortunately, a lot of companies, and even independent developers, I think understand this mindset as well. But I think a lot of traditional companies don't understand this. They don't. They're still locked in. It's like the newspaper industry. They pretend as if the internet doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And as long as the internet doesn't exist, then I'll be fine. It's like this. I'm blocking the light right now. That's the way a lot of industries are. Traditional industries, even software industries. The bigger they are, if they don't adapt, man, they're going to be the first to fall. I mean, it's just, hey, call me prophetic, call me what you will. I'm not the only one who's calling the ball on this. It's not to say that the process is any less important. It's just the process needs to be refined. It needs to change because every single year we're like, the curve is like, boom, exponential. I mean, broadband, mobile access for wireless anything. I mean, now you got Google saying, giving the FCC billions of dollars to open it up, truly open it up, while at the same time you've got idiots like Clearwire and Sprint, sorry, but they're saying, no, we can kind of make it partially open with our brand. They don't get it. It's not about control. You can control, but control your world. You can't control the world. The days of the Dr. Evil are over. I mean, it's just game over. Sorry, the internet wins. Open wins. It opens everything. It trumps all. Open wins. If the web was closed, if we had to deal with 5 worldwide webs, could you imagine? Okay, no. Let me take a step back. I mean, some would argue that it would be a good thing if AOL was never on the internet, or AOLers were never on the internet. But imagine if you had to have 15 email clients or one program to communicate with people across 15 different networks.
Kind of like I am.
Instant messaging, classic example. They've asserted their control in the wrong way. When they open up, suddenly they start to realize, wow, we can control our universe and give people a real reason to believe in us and to believe in our brand. Clearwire, they're a local company here in, Kirkland, I believe, in the Seattle area. They have really good opportunities, but unfortunately they're treading down the wrong path. Number one, now they're going up against Google. And there's one thing you just don't do is go up against Google in any capacity, because they have not just the resources, not just the mind share, but they've got power. Some people say they abuse it, but the fact that they did what they did in saying to the FCC, we want to open it up. This has got to be a truly competitive landscape. This is the way it goes. And I look at that, I'm like, oh my God, consumers finally have someone fighting for us. Someone big fighting for us and being our voice. And if Google can open the market for search and open the market for advertising as they have done, They've made it accessible for everybody, and if they could do the same thing for the wireless spectrum, I mean, it's a dream come true. I don't care who you are. It's a dream come true.
I am completely what happens in the wireless space. I think from just carrying this Justin TV rig around for a little while, it is so totally going to change the game and how we interface with information, because we're so used to sitting down in front of a little box or in front of a screen, and as soon as we really become those the gargoyles that Stevenson talks about in Snowcraft. Wireless camera rig, where you can take that and bring and do data overlays into that, augment it mobily.
It's this, and I don't know if the camera's going to be able to pick it up. I got an iPhone for my birthday, and I did not want an iPhone. I mean, there's certain things about it that I just don't think Apple got right. It's not a revolutionary device. In terms of an experience, it is revolutionary, but it still locks me into a contract. It's still a very old mindset, an old way of thinking. They didn't open up the device. I can't record video despite having 8 gigabytes of storage on this thing. Mm-hmm. The one compelling reason why I thought this iPhone would be good, it's not because of the speed, because it sucks, but because someone had released a website that allows you to manage web applications that have been built. So you don't have to install anything. You use web software. I'm like, so it's a gateway to have an open universe for well-designed applications that do exactly what I want them to do. I'm like, okay, that totally makes sense to me. So I had to, get over I'm still pushing, rallying against it, because I don't want to fully drink the Kool-Aid. I still want to be grounded in reality, understanding that this device is not a perfect device. But in terms of a user experience, if Apple starts to open it up, which I'm hoping Jobs will get over his ego long enough to understand that this is the way the world is going to work. Whether he wants it to or not, it's just the way it's going to happen. It's good enough for now, and I'm hoping with future firmware revisions, the software will start opening up even more than it has been today. But that hasn't stopped web developers from developing apps for the iPhone, and you can't argue with it. It's changed. That has changed the rules of mobile, so that people are. I walked into Pete's the other day, 4 iPhones. Yep. 4. There's something to that. You have to read between the lines with this stuff. You have to read between the lines.
All right. Get 2 more here, and then we'll move on to this next phase. I apologize. These I kind of got a little late, so I'm just kind of rocking their whole concept here as well with you. So, how about the concept of community-developed knowledge bases, of building and dependency management scripts and tools?
Well, again, that goes back to the idea of open and using open source technologies and creating your business around open source. It's crucial. It's fundamental. The smaller the company is, even more fundamental, and I'll explain why in just a second. Giving the tools out to the community and letting the community tell you what's going on is going to give your brand a better position, because seldom as a developer, you only see the world through a developer's eyes, or even through a manager. You only see the world through a manager's eyes. As a user, I largely see the world through a user's eyes. And in every case, you can seldom see the forest for the trees. So when I talk to developers and tell them, you need to do this with your product, you need to do this with your product, and they say, well, all you have to do is just work around by going X, Y, and Z. I'm like, you fool. Do you not understand how I'm telling you, number one, it's broken. Don't tell me how to work around it. Fix the damn thing. And number 2, I'm telling you how to make your product better so it stands out even more than it does today, so it enhances the product. And creating tools for the community and letting the community tell you how they want the tools developed, I mean, it's a focus group times 10, because these aren't just focus groups that were paid $50 to sit in on some television or monitor and click around and tell you what's wrong. These are your die-hard, dyed-in-the-wool users, people who are just like, they can tell you exactly what's wrong, they can tell you exactly what's right. And when you give these tools over to the community, it doesn't end there, it just starts there. But understanding that sometimes throwing a tool out there, it's just another tool. I mean, it's a commodity these days. What's going to make this tool better than any other tool? Or does the community already exist? And if it already exists, are they already using other tools to communicate back and forth? What's going to make this one better than another one? What's the value add of me using this service over another service? Where does it all where does it all end up? I mean, what does the company care to benefit from it? Because a lot of companies just say, well, we'll throw up a forum and that's a community. No, that's throwing up a forum in the hopes that your community is going to go there. And some people see community is kind of like it's distant, and we are not going to interact with them at all, and that's the wrong way to approach community. So part of it isn't even go deeper than just the tools, go deeper than just the software. You have to get to the people, and that's where the true strength lies in a lot of this community that people just don't talk about. They don't talk about the people, the true interaction, not just the BS layer of saying that we're going to throw some PHP script out there and just it'll quell the community or keep them quiet, or if they say something wrong about our product. Then we got to keep them on message, or we can't talk to them because they're completely not. We're afraid of letting it go. Hate to tell you, if your product isn't as good as it should be, people are going to tell you that, and they're going to tell the world that, despite what you try to do and what you try to say. Spin doesn't work anymore. It may work on television, it may work in traditional media, but the internet has got a built-in BS detector. And it all starts with community. You keep your community happy. They're going to tell you what's right. They're going to tell you what's wrong. They're going to tell you before you make your next move it's going to be the right one or the wrong one. Listen to their passions. They know your company better than you do. So it's always the case. It's always, even with the stuff that I do, my community knows more about me than sometimes I do. It's scary. And I'm not a community tool, although some people call me a tool.
All right. So what I'm going to suggest here is that maybe get a glass of water, get a little change up of the little costume change, if you will, and come back to the other questions. So I'll give you a second here and be back.